Hi, and welcome to another Scientology Outside of the Church podcast brought to you by the Advanced Org of the Great Plains, an independent Scientology organization. I'm here with Quenton Stroud. This is episode 11, season 7. And we're going to get started real quick. And it's going to be about Scientology scam? Question mark, question mark, question mark. And this should get quite a bit of interest on YouTube and everything like that. And we're going to go over some of these topics. So let's clear up a couple definitions here. What is a scam, Quenton? You hear that a lot. It's overused.
Yeah, it really is. And when you really think about it, it's anything that is dishonest in the nature of the scheme. So the scheme of itself is dishonest, or it's a fraud in that it doesn't hold true to what it is seeking to do, right? It's criminal deception is really what it is. So if you're scamming somebody, you're criminally deceiving them in order for some kind of financial gain or something of that nature. So um, when we ask like Scientology a scam, like really? That's kind of how I wanted to kind of phrase it, because when you really look at it, like your journey, your process is your own, and so it's your we can go into that more in depth later, but basically it is a deceptive practice in order to get financial gain.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's use that in a sentence. Is Scientology, the corporate church, currently a scam? Okay. That would be one sentence.
That would be one sentence. Yeah.
I left the Church of
Um,
Scientology because I felt like it was a scam. That's another
mhm.
sentence. You got one?
Sure. Mr. Ponzi scammed a lot of people.
Right. Very good. How do we feel about that? Think we got scammed?
I feel good about what a scam is. Yes.
Okay, good. This is your introduction to how we clear words in Scientology. Is there any derivation for scam?
Oh, it's working already. Let's take a look.
Yeah, it is. It's
So
working already.
scam. So scam. It says here. Um, hmm, Let me get the derivation of it. It's not. It says origin unknown. That's interesting.
So no derivation?
Yeah, I see so far. Yeah, everything says origin unknown.
Scaminus from late Latin. Okay, so there's no derivation.
From
Now that this one I know you know.
Oh, actually,
Th-
actually,
yeah.
actually, as I go a little bit deeper into it, it says from the word scamp, which is a swindler or a cheater.
Ah,
It says possibly is the word scamp, which is a swindler or cheater,
that makes
or a
sense.
cam in Irish, which is a crook.
Okay. Scamp or cam.
Um, yeah, a scamp or a cam, which is a crook in Ireland. Danish has the word scam, skam, um, or sham, something that's a sham.
Sham. Right.
Right. That it doesn't hold up.
Okay.
It was a sham of a wedding,
So they're all very
a
similar.
mockery.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Something
Okay.
false on false
Right.
pretenses. Okay. And I know you know this one, cult.
Yes. So I take the definition of cult very literally, right? Um, and I know a lot of people when they use words, they don't really know the definition of the word, but a cult is defined as a system of religious veneration or devotion dedicated towards a particular figure or object.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. I can think
Yeah,
of a few
I mean
cults,
that works,
Catholic Church.
right? Dedicated towards a particular figure or object. Like, okay, you want to use that in definition?
Well, I mean, let's get some examples. What some more examples? Would you say that Vedic is a cult? what
Vedic, what Vedic,
well, as far
like
as
the Hindu Veda?
yeah, the
We
Hindu
do the
Veda,
Veda?
would you say that that's a cult?
No, no, that would be definitely a religion. A cult typically has a popular focus. We adore this person. We worship this person. We are all about following this person. And whether the figure is physical or non-physical or whatever, but the idea is that it becomes its own the word cultus really is Latin for worship. That's what it
Okay.
means.
So
And go ahead.
well, I would so in your instance with as a Jehovah's Witness,
Uh-huh.
is Jehovah's being a Jehovah's Witness, when you want to talk about your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, is that a cult? I'm not being sarcastic
By
here. I'm curious.
no, by definition, anytime you put something or someone as the focal point of your worship, cultus, Latin, that would be by definition a cult. Um, yeah.
So what would be another cult?
Um, another cult where when you look at the Catholic Church, the Pope, when you look at the what was the cult in Waco at the time? The man Jim Jones.
Well, Jim Jones was in the late 70s down in Central America, Central or
Well, yeah,
South
he went down.
America.
Yeah, he went down to Honduras or wherever it was. Right.
Yeah, that would be a
But
cult.
the Jim Jones cult, that
Yeah,
would be a
wait,
cult. He was a
wait,
central. He was about his fig. He was a
yep.
figure.
David Koresh.
David
Yep,
Koresh.
in
Yep.
Waco. Yep, yep. Well, what
I
about
forgot some of the names.
what about the Baptist religion? What do Baptists believe?
Um. So again, if it's focused on one particular personality
Mm-hmm.
person, then it would be cultish or a
Mm-hmm.
cult because we're worshiping that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yes, so in other words, um, there was a network of Satan worshiping cults, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
How about Muslims or in Vietnam, Thailand? Either one of those, because Buddhism is huge in Thailand.
right. Buddhism does venerate, by definition, venerate and do devotions, but the difference with Buddhism, in my opinion, and based on, and I've studied Buddhism, but I'm not a Buddhist.
Mm-hmm.
The difference with Buddhism is that Buddhism teaches that you are your own Buddha. You are or a bodhisattva, which is kind of our version of a clear,
Uh-huh.
right? It would be like you're a bodhisattva. So you're the whole process of you becoming a Buddha. So it's not about worshiping somebody sitting up under a lotus tree or whatever. It's
Mm-hmm.
about you doing your process to become your own Buddha.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Buddha is a state. Buddha is a state of being, not a person.
So does the Muslim faith, does this correlate into as a
Again,
cult?
we have Muhammad being venerated, not worshipped. Muhammad is not worshipped in Islam, but he's definitely venerated. And then um, we have the worship of Allah, which is not a person. So that wouldn't be a
It wouldn't
cult
qualify.
necessarily.
Okay, so we got some
Well,
comparable magnitudes then.
yeah, yeah, because although they venerate Muhammad, they don't worship Muhammad.
Okay. Okay, so we
But
got
there's different. It's difference between venerating and worshiping Jesus.
right. Right.
Right.
Okay. So as we know, we're independent Scientologists. We're not corporate church Scientologists. So if I said to you, do you worship L. Ron Hubbard? What would your answer be?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
And I would say the same thing. I don't worship L. Ron Hubbard, nor do I worship Xenu.
Oh,
Because somebody
don't, don't,
posted that a couple of
don't.
times on our comments on YouTube.
Crazy.
There's no when somebody says, "Do you worship Xenu?" And you worship Xenu or something like that, I know that that's a person that doesn't know their ass from a hole in the ground, because they don't know anything about this.
totally ignorant
Totally.
to even what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, again,
Yeah.
now you said this in another podcast. Ignorant. What's that real quick? Let's clear this up. What is ignorance?
Ooh. So ignorant is, by definition, lacking knowledge or awareness in general, uneducated and unsophisticated.
Okay.
I love that.
Yeah. So if
Mhm.
one said that Scientology worships L. Ron Hubbard, that's the subject of Scientology, the Church of Scientology, they don't worship L. Ron Hubbard anymore. They worship David Miscavige.
Yeah, I'll say this. So veneration, if you click the word veneration, veneration does mean to hold in great respect or reverence, right?
Right. Right. So
So
they venerate him.
there's
That's for
definitely
sure.
great respect. There's
Yeah.
definitely great respect in the field of Scientology that we respect L. Ron Hubbard as one who took the took the time, the effort, the energy to do the research and then hand it down to us as somebody who can now apply something and use it. Just like I would greatly respect Alexander Graham Bell for helping us come up with the telephone,
Hmm.
or um, who did the light? Benjamin Franklin with a light
Hmm.
bulb. Like, oh yeah, we definitely hold these people in great respect. W.E.B. Du Bois, or anybody who is a great regenerator of something, yeah, I'm gonna respect you. But worshiping or deifying somebody is something totally different, right?
Right.
And so L. Ron Hubbard is not a deity
He
in
said,
in that
I'm
sense.
just a man. That's all that's what he said. It's in his writings in a policy.
Yeah. L. Ron Hubbard is not deified, is not worshipped. There is great respect for L. Ron Hubbard, but again, all of these things are something to consider when you ask the question, is Scientology a cult? So although that's not the topic of this conversation, we could talk for hours about what a cult is and what it's not. But we're really talking about scam
Hmm. Yeah.
because when you really look at it, a scam being again a scamp, somebody who is a crook, somebody who is whatever.
Hmm.
Like when you think about a scam, you're thinking about a dishonest scheme.
Yeah.
So how do we wrap our minds around whether anything is a scam? Right? Whenever if I take my car down to the mechanic, and for all intents and purposes, I believe that the mechanics that's working at this shop are qualified, educated to do the work that they say they can do for me.
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
If they're not qualified and not educated to do the work and get the result that I want, then I would say, "Oh, you scammed me.
Uh-huh.
You made me believe that you were qualified. You made me believe that you were educated enough. You made me believe you knew how to get the result."
Right. Right.
Right?
Right. In other words, a scam is where you're saying, I'm going to do this for you as a service, or this will do this for you, and I'm giving you the information to do this. And if it
Mhm.
doesn't, it qualifies as a scam by a scamster or scamp.
Hmm.
Okay.
Right.
So, in line with that, how does Scientology's ideology and practice compare to other religions or cults? Okay. So, in independent Scientology, Scientology, the subject, okay, not Scientology, the corporate church, where things have been altered and they're incredibly expensive,
Right.
and so on and so forth, which we covered in other podcasts. And you're comparing things. Let's say you go to the Catholic Church and you go in and pray, and you attend Sunday services, maybe Wednesday
Oh, you better
services.
stop.
You
Go
go in
ahead,
and
keep going, keep going.
you go in and you attend services, and you say, okay, I'm making a prayer or prayers at this point in time, and you're learning the gospel, and I'm not knocking the gospel. We talked about that just recently in one of our other
Oh yeah, the
podcasts.
gospel's gospel.
I'm
We
not,
did
I
we
mean, there's a lot of great data in there. But the thing is that if you're making somebody else responsible for things that are going on in your life, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work. Now in Scientology, you're given the data. If you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, you'll get this every time.
Right.
How
And,
they're two different
mm,
methodologies completely. Go ahead.
right. And it's been vetted in the sense of let's go over this multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make sure what we're saying is true
Right.
in its application, right? Result, when you look at the word result, result really is the outcome or the consequence or effect of something.
Mm-hmm.
So if I do these things, the result is that, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I hit the domino, the next domino is going to fall. The next domino, all things being in alignment, all things
Mm-hmm.
being done correctly,
Right.
all things being applied the way we need to apply them. If I hit this domino and they all lined up right, they all gonna fall. It's gonna be a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
you've seen those little things on YouTube going like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
right?
Big swirl
And
of color.
it's wonderful when it happens right,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And you can get results in any faith,
Yes.
any faith. And I'm not going to deny that. I've seen that. I've seen, miracles happen and all this stuff. The only difference is we have our explanation based off of our terminology, which we have an entire dictionary on in Independent Scientology, Scientology the subject. And the church has altered theirs to where you can't even use a dictionary in the course room because they've dumbed it down to where the only different definitions that you need are the definitions that they give you.
In the glossary.
Yeah. So we're getting a little Fahrenheit 451-ish there, Ray Bradbury. And other religions, does Jehovah's Witnesses, do they have a dictionary?
You know, not
Okay.
in the Kingdom Hall.
Okay.
Like you have one at home. Now we are encouraged. I'll say this: we were encouraged when reading the Bible to have a dictionary and a concordance,
Mm-hmm.
Biblical concordance,
Mm-hmm.
handy,
Mm-hmm.
so that if you come across, they don't say if you come across a word you don't understand, but you look up words to make sure you understand what it's saying.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the New World Translation of the Bible, which is the Bible that Jehovah's Witnesses use,
Mm-hmm.
it was used in order to make the verbiage more clear to modern English, the New World Translation,
Mm-hmm.
not the KJV or whatever,
Okay,
King James
so
Version.
if you don't mind me asking, and I don't want to put you on the spot here, would you
Mm.
would you say would you say you got results in while you were being a Jehovah's Witness?
I got results that I was looking for,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, I got results that I was looking for. I didn't get um well, I can't say that yet, but I would say I didn't get everything that was promised.
Right,
But I can't say that yet because they promised eternal life. So,
right, right.
so
Well, and
yeah,
that's not
on a
so
paradise earth.
right. That's not so dissimilar to what we're striving for in Scientology, which is your quote unquote, and this isn't said in Scientology, but I'm just dumbing it down for the sake of the podcast. Your spiritual eternity, and how your next life, we believe in past lives, though it's not something that we strive for. It just happens when you get auditing that eventually you realize these are my hands, but it's not the body that I was in. This person in the mirror is me, but I don't look like what I do now. So it's a new meat puppet, so to speak. So
Yeah.
they're not so dissimilar there. So when we come back to scam and we come back to cult, a cult is not a scam. A scam is not necessarily a cult. They're
Yeah, they're not
mutually,
the same.
yeah, they're mutually exclusive. So
Right.
you can get results in anything, and in comparison, you can get results out of anything. The difference for me in Scientology, the subject, and independent Scientology, is that it's a scientific applied method that's also a philosophical viewpoint. And Hubbard, called it a religion at one point. He said it wasn't back in 53, 54, and then it had to be in order to stop persecution from taxation and things like that, which is fair, because it is a religion if you deem it to be. Now that brings us to, that's not so dissimilar. Does Jehovah's Witness, do they suffer taxation in the U.S.?
No, they're
Okay,
tax exempt.
okay. So
Hmm. But
there's
but
some.
but the organization is a tax exempt organization, 509(c)(3). However, the Jehovah's Witnesses don't have a clergy in that the individual, like there's no pastor that doesn't pay taxes, or there's no whatever, like everybody pays taxes in Jehovah's Witnesses, except the organization is a 501(c)(3) tax exempt organization. But
Same
if
with the
you could be the highest president, CEO, whatever, you not CEO, but you can be the highest of the highest, you still paying personal income tax.
right. Same
Yeah.
thing with the Church of Scientology. Same thing with
Right. Yeah.
independent Scientology. Independent Scientology organizations, they could file for it, but I doubt that they would get it. So that's
Well,
that.
yeah.
I don't know of anybody that has that in the independent field. So there are a
Right.
lot of parallels here as far as how does Scientology ideology and practice compared to other religions or cults. Now that brings us to, how does Scientology recruit and retain members? Uh,
Hmm.
my experience on that is somebody says, "Hey, read a book. This is great," and the person says, "Yeah, I agree with this. I've applied this and it works." So that's no different than Jehovah's Witnesses or Baptists or Muslims or Buddhists. And it is they recruit people for staff. They don't recruit people. I mean, the church goes out and they give out tickets for lectures, or used to, and it was very successful in the 70s. They ask you to come in and watch a film, ask you to take a personality test. That's really not any different than Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormons who go out on a,
Hmm.
what is it Mormons call it when they go out on a
Mission.
mission,
They go on a
right?
mission.
On a mission, same thing. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of
And I think it's
similarity.
2 years.
2 years is a mission.
Every male at the age of 18
Yep,
signs up for mission.
that's right. I had some very close friends who were Mormons, and they're some of the sweetest and nicest, most giving, caring people
Hmm.
you'd ever want to meet. Okay.
I used to study with the Mormons in Thailand, and they were Americans, but they were doing mission in Thailand,
Mhm,
and had wonderful conversations. It was very interesting looking at their Christology and how Jesus,
mhm,
after dying in Israel, Jerusalem, going over to the Americas and doing his work in the Americas. It was
mhm,
very interesting, the layout. But yeah, I mean, again, when you talk about scamming someone, you're talking about being dishonest in nature,
mhm,
right? Dishonest in nature and creating a dishonest scheme in order to defraud and or take something from somebody without giving them an exchange, without giving
mhm,
them anything back.
mhm,
Again, a Ponzi scheme, which is a scam,
mhm.
right?
Yeah, and it's, when you look at the corporate Church of Scientology, they present it as the works of L. Ron Hubbard with alterations. They're not using the original texts. So to me, and I'm going to cross a line here for people who might be in the church listening to this podcast, and they'll probably click off. Is LRH said, "Don't change my stuff. Keep it the way that it was meant, and that's all there is to it." The church changes that stuff, and they don't tell you that they're changing it. And they've done this 4 or 5 times over the last few decades, depending on what we're talking about, at least 4, sometimes 5. And they're altering the lectures, they're deleting things from the lectures, so there's a tremendous amount of change. And they're also, well, they're closing organizations and combining them now, which was a policy that said, the LRH says that is an act of treason to do that. They're currently doing that in Paris. They're combining Celebrity Center Paris with Paris org, and putting it
Mm.
into one. So that's a prime example where it's so clear it's not even funny. It's the first thing in the policy says to do so is an act of treason. Okay, so there we go. We've got changes. That's fraud. That to me falls
Right.
under a scam, because you're not
Yeah, because
doing what Hubbard said.
you're not presenting what you're saying is being presented. And the interesting part is this, and the part that really stood out to me is that the changes are not um they're not policy in that LRH realized something wasn't really working the way he wanted it to or what way it was supposed to, and then had to go back and make corrections and change things or whatever, whatever. That happens with any organization, right? But when you're making these changes because the copyright ran out, you know what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
the copyright,
Right.
or whatever that the copyright it's been 60 years and the copyright no longer, or whatever. Like, oh no, we need to change this in order for the copyright to start again. That's a different
Yeah.
reason to change to alter is something.
Yeah. Yeah. And the primary thing is they're presenting it as the original works, but they're not telling you anymore. It used to be at the top of the bulletins and the policy letters, which LRH would call a data trail. They used to say revised in this script at this point in time to fix and they've taken that out and they've changed these things. And like Hubbard says, the hardest thing to spot as a missingness is it's completely different in some areas, not all areas, but in some areas enough that any change is unacceptable per Hubbard's viewpoint. So why did you do this? They don't tell you, so therefore that's fraudulent to me. So
Yeah.
that's a problem. Now that brings us to, are there any documented benefits of Scientology practices?
Well, I want to talk a little bit more about the membership side,
Oh,
recruiting and
okay.
membership side
Okay.
too, because there is something in Scientology that even as independent Scientologists we still definitely use, which is called the dissemination drill, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And and really the whole point of the dissemination drill is to get a person who might be dealing with some kind of problem, right? You make contact, you handle any ruin, you handle any uh, um, confusion that one might have, any misinformation that one might have, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You expose the ruin and you give them a solution, right?
Right.
And so when it comes to dissemination, like it really is helping people is what that's really you. I think you said give them a book or read a book, and oh, I agree with this, and now
Mm-hmm.
I can study Scientology.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's true, but if we're out in the real world, so for example, when I was in National Institutes of Health in Maryland, and I saw somebody who really needed help because he was dying of brain cancer,
Mm-hmm.
like it was not um it wasn't in me to say, oh, just read this book and see how it goes, right? It's like I want to apply some Scientology to you. I want to handle your ruin in
Mm-hmm.
this moment. And by being able to actually use Scientology to get the result, and literally seeing this man within less than an hour being gray and jaundiced and all discolored, to be sitting up and eating his eggs and asking for hot sauce to put on his eggs. Like I can see the you contact a person, you hand to them, you present, heaven of the ruin or whatever, whatever, and you give them the help that they need. That's helping a person become a Scientologist if they choose to continue their journey. If
Right.
not, at least you got some help, and now you can eat your eggs.
Right. So they got something from it.
Right? Yeah.
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 So that's the whole thing is, are there any documented benefits of the practices? So
Hmm.
there's lots. You get it on a gradient. You learn how to do one thing and the next and the next and the next, and then you apply it. If you do what he says, you'll get what he says you get. It's that simple.
Yeah.
That's not any stretch. And that's something I've never seen in any other religion, where you're at cause over it.
Right. Well, that it's so interesting you use that phrase because to me, that's really what a religion should do,
Hmm.
right? It should put you in a place of you being a free will being, self-determined, and I'm able to now live the life that I choose to live in alignment with what I believe or in
Mhm.
alignment with who I know myself to be. I'm able to now live in alignment with that more fully. If you have something that's constantly causing you to have to, you know, throw money in the collection basket or whatever, whatever, in order to, you know, get some favor,
Mhm.
you know, what difference is that then, let's sacrifice a virgin to appease the gods. Like
Right.
that there's no difference except, we put a modern day twist on it. So all I'm saying is that I like what attracted me to Scientology, the study of, as a Bible believer, as a person who came up under that viewpoint. It was something that I could do this and see the manifestation of what I'm
Mhm.
applying, what I'm practicing.
Right.
And that felt really good to me.
Yeah, and you can get the desired results from it as quickly as you want, and once you know how to do it, it's yours in perpetuity.
Yeah.
In perpetuity.
When,
Uh,
when
s-
I when I was when I was living in my car, um, broke. What do you say? Broke is a joke. Broke is a joke. When I was living in my car, um, I called one of my uh one of my Scientology contacts, and I said, I need something. I need something because this ain't working. I'm living in
Mhm.
my car. I'm not able to get out of this scene. I don't know how I'm gonna get out of this situation. I called my mother to ask for her to co-sign with me on an apartment. She wouldn't do that. I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So uh he read to me some references. I took notes,
Mhm.
and it was basically on the stats, looking at my stats and the ethics and, formulas for living in the whole bit. He read to me some um, references, not asking me to sign up for anything, not trying to sell me or reg me on a course. I just needed help,
Mhm.
right? And I put into play the references that he gave me, the formulas and the whole bit. And literally, I was able to move out of living in my car to, I got an upstat, and now I'm in my friend's attic. I was sleeping in the attic on a twin size bed. And then from upstat to that, to having a friend of mine literally give me her apartment. Like, she paid all the bills and everything, and she gave me her apartment, to then getting my own place and actually having a 3-story house to living in my car. And so I was able to boom, 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 boom,
Mhm.
stair step it up and
Mhm.
just continue getting the wins after wins after wins after wins, just using the reference that this person read to me over the phone and say, do this and it'll get you out.
And that's pretty unusual for a scam, wouldn't you
That
say?
is pretty unusual. That's pretty unusual for a scam. That's off definition of a scam.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's some of the benefits of Scientology practices. You apply it, you get what he says you get.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward. Now, how transparent is Scientology in its financial administrative operations as far as the Church of Scientology, the corporate church? There's been a lot about that, and we covered it in the IRS podcast and everything like that. Well, the church didn't win the war with the IRS. The IRS took the church over. Basically, is what happened. And now it's run by a bunch of non-Scientologists with David Miscavige as the figurehead, and they have tax exempt status, and but their parishioners don't get to they don't get the joy that the corporate church does. They still have to pay a significant amount of taxes when they do services, for example, and that was something they weren't very transparent about when they said the war is over, we've defeated the IRS, all that stuff. Now in the independent field, you deal with an independent auditor or an independent organization, you know, do your due diligence, ask your questions, get it in writing, all of that, and look at the success stories, get some references, talk to people, that sort of thing. Uh, but the church itself has run into a lot. The corporate church has run into a lot of issues with financial administrative things. If we get into the Lisa McPherson thing and what happened there and how they covered that up, that type of thing. So that's, again, I think that errs in the direction of a fraud myself.
Well, I can understand that. I don't know much about a lot of the big controversial things about the corporate Church of Scientology, so I can't really speak to those. But what I'll say is this, and it, I don't mean to sound flippant in how I say it. It 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 takes two to tango, right? It takes two to
Yeah.
tango,
Yeah.
and so I believe, and I work with the ideology that you're never a victim, right?
Hmm.
Everything that happens to you happens through you, and so for me, I have been scammed. I have been scammed once. And the time that I was scammed, I was 19 years old. I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and I go up to this convenience store, and this guy has a little table, and he has these three little walnut shells, half the walnut
Hmm.
shells,
Yeah.
and he has a little red ball. He
Yep.
has a little red ball under the walnut shells, and he's moving them around on the table, and you could spot where the little red ball is. You get the money, right? And so you put some money in, and I did this thing. I lost my whole month's rent
Mm.
on this scam, and it was a scam of the little red ball thing,
Hmm.
because not knowing that when he would lift up the shell, he would pick up the ball with it,
Hmm.
right? And it became a thing, right? So he's like, "Look, follow the ball, follow the ball." So that was a thing. I was able to get my money back because a girlfriend of mine came and she had a knife as long as my arm, like a machete, and
Hmm.
she was like, if he don't give that boy his money back, I'm gonna chop you up. And she threatened him, and he gave me my money back. But I'm saying that to say is that I was there and I communicated with
Hmm.
this person,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
And so I was scammed for that purpose, for that reason. I'm trying to see, and I'm trying to see this. I'm trying to understand how you get scammed with Scientology. I'm trying to
Right.
see how that might work.
Right. And that's where due diligence comes in, is it's only a scam if you allow yourself to be scammed with the corporate Church of Scientology. And that's where they try and shut people off from the benefits of observation and say, don't get on the internet, all these negative things and all this jazz. And it's like, well, there's negative, you can find negative things about anything. Walmart.
Sure.
What,
Oh yeah,
what is Walmart a scam? You put it into Google.
almost a scam.
I mean, it's so it's a matter of doing your due diligence and saying, okay, so what would be the best option be? Well, our viewpoint is your best option would be to be an independent Scientologist as opposed to being a corporate sheep Scientologist and dealing with like the IAS, the Independent Association of Scientologists, which is not something that Hubbard ever sanctioned and is a separate entity from the corporate Church of Scientology completely, and is a slush fund with a tremendous amount of money that's been put in it. And they go around and tell their parishioners, Scientology is going to end tomorrow if you don't give us some money. We need your help. And people believe it, and they give them money. And that's a scam. That's a scam, because they've been saying this, and I know this. I know when they started it back in the 80s, they were saying the same thing, and I confronted them about it in the early 2000s. And I said, you've been saying this for over 30 years, and it's never happened, and it's suppressive. How dare you? That's
Mm.
a scam. That's a scam with three shells and a ball.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And you keep moving the ball.
right. And you keep moving the ball and you keep changing the books, and you say, okay, well, what was wrong with the books that I bought before? Oh, well, we found out that, the typist was suppressive and they omitted this. And are you telling me that L. Ron
But
Hubbard
see,
didn't read his own books?
hold on a second. But I wouldn't have bought a new book. That's the thing. Like, I
Right.
guess that's my thing. I'm telling you, Jonathan, that's my thing. Listen, if the book I got ain't working, then I'm just going, what am I supposed to do? Because I'm not buying another set of books.
Hmm.
I just wouldn't do it.
Hmm.
And I guess I'm trying to understand, like,
The gullibility of it all.
well, I'm not gonna call anybody gullible, because I think that people do what they know they think they should do. What I'll say to that is that why why any business, if you brought my pasta out to me at Olive Garden
Hmm.
and I asked for no bacon and it had bacon on it, I wouldn't pay for a new plate of pasta.
Right.
Fix my pasta
Right.
and
Bring
give
it
me a
back
new
without
plate.
bacon. Right.
Right. So if I paid for a book, this is me now. This is just me. I ain't talking about nobody or their mama. If I paid for a book and you didn't put what you were supposed to put in there, bring me a new book out.
Right.
That's what I say.
Hmm.
Now, am I wrong?
Well, the original books were the original books, and they've been getting changed for decades, and they keep
Right.
reiterating. And then they said, throw out all those other books, burned the books. They burned lectures, original master tapes of L. Ron Hubbard's. They burned them in mass to get rid of the evidence of the alterations. This was verified by a class 12 auditor who saw it. Verified. Okay. So that's scammy to me when you go changing things and you don't tell people about what it is that you're changing, and you tell them that they have to get rid of their old stuff and buy new stuff. Otherwise they can't be a member, and you're not allowed in the church. This is what happens in the corporate Church of Scientology. Independent Scientologists don't do that. We give you the
Right.
originals. So
Right. And for me, go back to what you said about due diligence, because for me, it was I was very versed in LRH references.
mhm,
And so anybody who tried to reg me, like say with AIS or whatever, I did sign up for AIS once, and that was years ago, but I never reapplied. Like I never
yeah,
signed up again for them.
yeah,
Um, but I'm saying that to say that for me, I had so much knowledge about LRH references that I could tell you, wait a minute, that ain't what that said there, because I remember reading that and it
mm,
said, or I would say, show me the reference. Like I
right.
would love to see it. You know what I
Show
mean?
me show me in
And
writing.
right. And 9 times out of 10, they would keep trying to enlighten me,
Mhm.
right? They would keep trying to enlighten me on, what's what or whatever it may be. But I just didn't, I don't know how I would handle that.
Yeah. Well, if it isn't written, it isn't true. I mean, the verbal tech checklist HCOB says if it isn't written, it isn't true. And it also states the original one, which they've altered, states did the person who is put this in writing or is telling you about this that it's in writing have the authority to issue it.
Hmm.
That's the thing you need to know is who's saying what. Well, Hubbard wrote it. He's the one. That's where that's at. And they went and altered that particular HCOB to where it's completely different now. I mean, that's a biggie. So that's something where you have to really do your due diligence and get in there and find out what is true and what is not true. Because if it's hidden and it's just been removed, hardest thing to spot is the missingness. you
Hmm.
you don't know that you don't know, and that is what they prey on with people. Is the normal turnaround with people in Scientology is they last about 2 years, and then it's a new cycle. It's a new person, and it's a new person. You get all these young people that are joining staff, joining Sea Org and everything, and they don't know what it was originally like. They're just believing whatever they're told because that's the newest thing and that's all they know.
Right.
That's fraud.
Yeah.
You're dealing with a complete different iteration. That's not Eddie Murphy. That's an imposter. He's not funny.
Right. And it would be different. It would be different if they change the name into something else. So
Yeah.
in other words, if LRH said this is Scientology, don't change it. And then they change something, and then they change it to Miscavigology or
Yeah, that's different.
something else. Then yeah, okay, yeah, I'm working with something different. Okay, no problem. That do you. But everybody got to hustle. But
Hmm.
if you are going to say that this is what it is and this is what it's always should have been, or the way things should have been, I can't wrap my mind around it.
Right. Yeah, and that's the problem. If you don't know that you don't know, well, you might be getting scammed. So that's where due
Right.
diligence is the key thing. So that brings us to how does Scientology respond to criticism and controversy? Not very
So I
well.
want to well, I want to say this. Scientology the subject,
Hmm.
okay,
Does.
is very, very transparent and very
Yes.
easy on criticism and controversy. So, number one, we all know that Scientology is controversial in and of itself.
Hmm.
And LRH talked a lot about it. And he talked about it in, I think, one of the books where he said that um, this is not a political, this is not, I think it was self-analysis. This isn't a political thing. It's not a political jaunt, right?
Hmm.
And so controversy, I think, is in the wood and warp of what Scientology is, because it is something very different than
Hmm.
what has been presented to the world by
Hmm.
and large. But as far as criticism, Scientology, the subject, is very clear.
Yeah.
Take a look,
Yeah. It's all
read a
that right
book.
there, and it's all right there in writing, and you can see it for yourself. It's not hidden away somewhere that, you have to go to some secret library, so on and so forth. And but the policy says what the policy says, and the responses that the corporate church gives do not follow policy, because he says if you deliver what's promised, you won't have any
Mhm.
problems. And the reason why the church has the problems that they have is because they're not delivering what's promised. It's that simple,
Which sounds like a scam.
which sounds like a scam. All right. So
Right.
that brings us to, in closing, are there any allegations or proven cases of illegal or unethical practices within Scientology? The corporate Church of Scientology, yes. Many,
Mhm.
many, many.
Unethical practices. Yeah, things that should not be is what
Yeah.
we say. Things that should not be, and somebody putting their hands on your body without your permission or consent should not be, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Somebody forcing you to do something against your own self-determinism should not be.
Hmm.
So these things are definitely there. And I think that when we talk about independent Scientology, one thing that I love about stepping into where we are now is that, number one, we're ahead of the curve when it comes to technology.
Yeah.
So this allows us to now be in two totally different countries, and yet still you auditing me to give me the wins that I need, going up the
Hmm.
bridge.
Hmm.
And that's something that we don't create the barrier of space now, right?
Hmm.
We don't allow the barrier of space to be a thing.
Right.
Um, it's one less barrier to have to deal with. The
Hmm.
fact that with ALGP the rates are very reasonable, right?
Hmm.
Which means that we know that this is something that is reachable for the average person working a full-time job. Like, you can do this,
Hmm.
right?
It's
And I think
conceivable
that
that you
feels,
could go the whole way and not break the bank and double mortgage your house and borrow grandma's retirement.
yeah, and it feels good to know that the average person with a full-time job can actually do what they need to do in order to be better, and to, like I said before, even in my experience, go up and up and up and up and up
Yeah.
in your accomplishments and achievements and abilities, so that you can have more, as you continue to go up the bridge. So it just becomes a lot better. And then I'd say the last thing, when it comes to Scientology, the practice or the study of the
The
actual working
subject.
of Scientology, the
Hmm.
subject, right? Um, it is, or it contains, a body of the subject of ethics is
Yeah.
contained in the study of Scientology.
Hmm.
So with it being unethical, doesn't even make sense when it comes to the study of Scientology, the subject of Scientology, because it contains a whole book and or series of lectures and a whole bit about ethics being the main thing.
Hmm.
So
That's a very important part, is that you're looking at an incredible body of data, and that it can take you years to read it all, even if you're studying 10 hours a day. I mean, the St. Hill Special Briefing course is mostly reading and listening to transcripts, listening to lectures and transcripts. It takes a year full time just for those 425 lectures. So you're looking in the neighborhood of 5 or 6 years to learn all of the data that's there. And if you use it, you apply it, you'll get the result. That's not a scam itself.
mm-mm.
You just have to make sure you understand what it is you're reading, clear your words, get checked out on things to make sure that your understanding is consulted and that you can then apply.
Well, let me ask you a question. So, okay, you just gave a big chunk of the apple, right? So, for example, this one State Health Special Briefing course being a whole year of study, right?
Mhm.
And if you apply what you're learning, you can see it, you can operate with it, you can get the results of it, stuff like that. So, is college a scam?
Well, I
Is
used to work with PhDs at McDonald's because they couldn't get a job.
because you can't get a job with it. Like
Right.
you ain't getting the result of what you said you were supposed to get.
Right. And that's a very narrow
I don't
thing
know,
if you have
man.
a PhD. If you
Yeah.
can't get a job with it, and then you have to pay, you've got a mountain of debt for it. Well, that mountain of debt supersedes absolutely supersedes what it would cost an independent Scientology to get that training. And then you could go out and you could do anything that you wanted to with this information. It's not that you just have to become an auditor. You can go out and start a business. You can become a CEO. You can go out and help people in a myriad number of other ways and make an excellent living with it. It isn't
Hmm.
just this narrow, myopic thing. It can be applied to anything in life. That is not something you
Yes.
can do with many other spiritual practices. It is completely different in that wise. So to wrap that up for us, you're going to have to do your own due diligence. You're going to have to do your own
Yeah.
research. Don't take our word for it. Talk to us, get in touch with us, get our opinion. Three sides to every story: yours, mine, and the truth. And you're going to have to, per the Scientology code of honor, keep your own counsel. And this is where people go wrong and they blame the corporate church for what's been done to them. And you and I both
Yeah.
are of the same viewpoint that there's no such thing as a victim. You were there, you were communicating, you chose the people that you decided to work with. And that's the thing. Know your tone scale, understand how the different
Yes.
personalities do different things. Read Science of Survival and learn how to pick your people and who to stay away from. Apply that technology, learn about the basics: affinity, reality, communication, and understanding, the ARC triangle: knowledge, responsibility, and control, KRC triangle. Make up your own mind. Don't let anybody tell you that Scientology, the subject, is a scam. Make that distinction.
Yeah.
Corporate Church of Scientology, Scientology, the subject, Independent Scientology. Those last two are the closest two things. But you still have to do your due diligence and find out for yourself, because you don't know what you don't know until you find out. Get in communication. When in doubt, communicate.
Yeah. Communicate. And let me be very clear. I am very open to communicating with anybody on the subject and other subjects too, but particularly on the subject of Scientology, because again, 22 years practicing Scientology in and outside of the church. And, just coming to an awareness that if you have questions, you can get honest answers. You
Mm-hmm.
can get honest answers from people who know what they're talking about. And once you have that, good two-way communication, we teach that communication is a universal solvent. So once you have the good communication, you can solve your conundrum. You can solve your problems. You can solve the question of whether or not this is something that you should pursue for yourself. And I welcome you guys to reach out. I definitely do.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's absolutely the truth. I feel the same way. So we're going to
Perfect.
wrap this up a little over 45 minutes, probably 50, 55 minutes, somewhere in there. We really appreciate listening to the podcast, and check us out at ao-gp.org for more information. We also have what's called the Oracle. If you do a major service, we have almost all of the lectures transcripts on there, all of Hubbard's writings, all searchable, and you can have a conversation with the AI, similar to Chat GPT 4.5. And we're not hiding anything from you on that. You've got access to the information. You can talk to the whole library if you want to. This is something the church doesn't even have. So it's not hidden away. It's for you, and it's there, and we want you to use it and know it. So for Quenton Stroud and myself, we really appreciate you being here, and we will see you very, very soon with another podcast. Very interesting subject coming up next time. We'll keep that a secret. Take care, everybody. Namaste, and we love you. Bye bye.
Peace.